I really don't think it's a stretch to say that the federal government is waging a war against its own people, those living in blue states in particular. And I can't help but think that the Trump regime, either wittingly or unwittingly, is tugging on the threads that could cause the entire country to unravel. It really feels like we're witnessing the beginning of the end. Is that hyperbole? Maybe. It's just really hard to be objective and gauge how consequential moments in history are when you're living through them. But with that being said, if one's goal was to destroy the country, I can say with confidence that the Trump regime is doing everything that they can to make that a reality. For example, he announced that he'll be illegally cutting off funding to entire states that have sanctuary cities. It's essentially collective punishment, not to mention, as the Associated Press points out, he's already tried to do this twice, both in his first and second term, mind you, and both attempts were struck down by courts. But now that he's gone full dictator, he doesn't feel restrained by the courts or Congress, which is why he's also threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act and denaturalize U.S. citizens, and subtly suggesting that the midterm elections should be canceled. It's why his regime raided the home of a journalist in a blatant attempt to uncover her 1,000 plus government sources who are leaking information from within the regime. It's why his billionaire crony Elon Musk is calling for the imprisonment of educators who accurately teach U.S. history. And we haven't even scratched the surface, because I'm only giving you some examples of his recent lawlessness at the domestic level. Internationally, that's an entirely different story. He's openly saying that he doesn't need international law, which is why he's threatening to invade several countries at once, including literal allies. The brakes are off the bus, my friends, and we are headed straight towards a cliff. We're witnessing what it would have been like if King Joffrey or Cartman or Sid from Toy Story ruled the world. Like, we have a petulant child just throwing a tantrum, and the entire world is suffering because of this madman that some Americans chose to elect. Stupidly so, might I add. But I say this all to say that him cutting off funding to states would be another significant escalation. And I get that it's hard to understand why that's the case, because there's so many things going on. But if he were to do this, it would further contribute to the conditions that are leading to people wanting to revolt. And I say this because my state of Oregon would be one of the states that lose funding, and the prospect of paying taxes to the federal government and getting nothing in return is infuriating to a lot of people in this state, and they're not shy to vocalize their real thoughts about this. In fact, in a thread about this on the Oregon subreddit, users are pointing out how this is definitionally taxation without representation. Others are referencing Cascadia, which is a growing secessionist movement in the Pacific Northwest that's starting to actually gain steam because people here feel increasingly scorned by the federal government. And user PJ really puts things into perspective, writing, I mean, yeah, this is just the dissolution of the union, right? If they effectively stop federal support for blue states and de facto suspend constitutional protections in those states, then they're just an occupying force and should be treated as such. The logic is sound, and this sentiment is going to spread in blue states who feel like the federal government is more of a burden than a benefit, who feel like the federal government is being openly antagonistic towards them. And you can't fault people for feeling this way, because if we pay our federal taxes every single year and we can't even expect the bare minimum in federal support any longer, such as disaster aid relief and funding for state services, and on top of that, we're now being invaded by a paramilitary like Gestapo, what is the point of the union? The glue that holds it together, the buy-in, it just falls apart. Like, this is how empires collapse. And I don't want to just gloss over the Gestapo, because the cruelty that they are exhibiting towards the people in cities that they're occupying is truly outrageous. They're now going around and asking black and brown people for their papers like it's fucking Nazi Germany. They're holding children hostage to get to their parents. They're pulling people out of their cars and carrying them away because they happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Not protesting, not doing anything. They were just in the way. It's reached the point where residents in Minneapolis who are under ICE occupation are now begging outsiders for help. That's how bad things have gotten. And they're even abducting Native Americans when they have absolutely no authority whatsoever over sovereign indigenous land. And nobody is safe. They're going door to door now, just like JD Vance said that they would. And even if you try to avoid them, sometimes you just can't. Case in point, there was a family who was trying to flee the war zone that is Minneapolis, and they were targeted by the Gestapo. They weren't part of the protests. They were just trying to get their family to safety because the things that are happening there are very violent. And what they did to this family is mind-blowing.
We also talked to an individual who was not involved with the protest, and he was just trying to get his kids out of the neighborhood. He had 6 kids loaded into his car, including a 6-month-old, when law enforcement threw a flashbang at his car, and now he has told us all 6 of his kids were transported to the hospital. We saw EMS come in. We expect that they are going to be okay, but obviously that father tonight is very worried about his kids. When he says he wanted nothing to do with this protest, he was just trying to get out of here when he got caught up.
Officers threw flashbangs and tear gas in my car and made I got 6 kids in the car. Lord, my 6-month-old can't even breathe. My 2-year-old then flipped out the damn car. This was flipped over. My car filled with tear gas. I'm trying to pull my kid out the car. I'm telling the officer I need ambulance. It took him 5 fucking minutes. He's going back and forth with me, telling me to go back in there and call and tell them to come up Lindale. They can't even come up Lindale.
Were you participating in the protest?
No, I wasn't at all.
I cannot get over this. They threw flashbangs and tear gas into his vehicle with 6 kids, including a 6-month-old and a 2-year-old. And even after they knew that the kids in the car were injured, he had to explain to them why it was important that his children receive medical attention immediately. Like, ask yourself this question. Do you think that ICE agents would hesitate at all if they were ordered to start throwing people in gas chambers? I'm asking earnestly, would they obey that order? I think that we all know the answer to that question, and it's terrifying. And perhaps the scarier part is that I don't think that they'd need that order in the first place. I honestly believe that they would be willing to do it on their own volition, and they'd probably enjoy watching it. They'd probably get off to it. Like, that's the kind of people that we're dealing with. They are sick, sadistic terrorists who seem to genuinely relish in people's pain and suffering. Here's another example of their depravity that was shared by attorney Ben Crump.
Right now, there's not much Rigo Lopez can do but sit on his front porch and grieve.
This is too much for me. It's too very, very bad news because my wife not can stay with me. And my son is no more with me either.
On Saturday morning, Lopez says his wife, Arlie Maria Martinez, was on her way to work when she was detained by ICE on Mount Herman Road. 2 days later, their son, 15-year-old Kevin Martinez, a student at Parkside High School, died from cancer. Arlie, still in the custody of ICE, never got the chance to say goodbye.
She's never gonna see him no more. And we tried to take her out, but they don't let it come out to say bye.
I mean, what is there to even say at this point? We are dealing with people who are devoid of humanity and get some sort of sick, twisted pleasure out of the pain and suffering that they cause. They wouldn't let a mother see her son one last time before he died of cancer. They are fucking monsters. They are evil. And I never really believed that evil existed. I just thought that some people were really flawed. But I mean, how do you describe this as anything but evil? And there are still Democrats who think that they can reform this agency. It is just infuriating to me. And the worst part is that there's no escape from them. Even if you try to mind your own business and stay inside and comply, even if you're a citizen, there is no guarantee that you're going to be safe from the Gestapo's wrath. This report from the New York Times demonstrates why that's the case.
Amid the morning calm, a security camera captures a SWAT team moving in formation. Operators in tactical gear carry ladders into the backyard. Another group enters the front and attaches strips of explosives along the windows and door. Inside, Jenny Ramirez and her 2 kids are sleeping when her phone rings. It's a neighbor calling.
Jenny, wake up. I see a lot of police in front of your house. Are you okay? Get up.
Out front, an armored vehicle pulls up. It's carrying a canine team, a photographer, and a drone operator. At the end of the convoy is a U.S. Border Patrol vehicle. These are federal immigration agents at the home of U.S. citizens, and they're ordering them to exit immediately. Agents wait 14 seconds, then blow out the bedroom window.
My 6-year-old started screaming, we're here, we're okay. But he wasn't understanding. It wasn't like something that happened to the house and they were coming to help us. I told him, they're not helping us.
The second explosion blows off the front door. We wanted to understand what prompted this show of force and use of manpower. These high-risk tactics, according to current and former federal officials, are typically used for drug smugglers and violent fugitives, not by immigration agents trying to arrest a U.S. citizen accused of injuring government property, who it turns out isn't even home.
I mean, your neighbor's home could be next. Your home could be next. Who knows? And to be clear, it wouldn't be legal or morally acceptable for them to do this to immigrants, documented or not, because in civilized societies, you're not supposed to treat human beings this way. But we are not a civilized society. We're a fascist dystopia. And this kind of terrorism is commonplace in fascist dystopias. And the reason why they feel so emboldened to target citizens now too is because that's actually one of their purposes. It's no longer just about immigration. Reporting from Ken Klippenstein reveals, as a military intelligence source told me, the ICE crackdown isn't just about immigration. It's about gathering intelligence in support of Trump's war on cartels, as well as on Antifa, on the radical left, and those who are, quote, anti-American, and anyone else they consider terrorists. And since the administration has been so quick to label everyone, including Renee Good, terrorists, it's no wonder they think they're at war. In other words, the reason why it feels like the government is waging a war on its own people is because they quite literally are doing that. The ICE Gestapo functions as President Neckpussy's personal militia. And I just have to stress this again. Nobody is safe. Just listen to what these witnesses say.
Today, as I was responding to an ICE sighting, I watched a Ford Explorer filled with ICE agents blow through a stop sign, T-bone someone on accident, and then kidnap the driver that they T-boned. That was their way of cleaning up their mess. This was not someone they were pursuing. It was not someone, a suspect on their list. This was not even a protester. They just blew through a stop sign, accidentally T-boning someone, and instead of calling police and waiting for an ambulance because they didn't want to stick around for the scene, instead, they got out of their Ford Explorer, approached the driver's side broken window of the vehicle that they hit. They ripped that driver from his vehicle, threw him in the back of their Ford Explorer, driving off, kidnapping this man. That was their way of cleaning up their car accident today.
Where I live in my apartment, they come in without warrants, without official anything. They just come in and barge into people's houses, gunned, armed up with no one being spoke to or anything, masked up. This is kidnapping and everything above. That is not okay.
What does it feel like, when you wake up in the morning? Are you scared? Are you anxious?
I am very scared. I'm worried that I'm not even able to go to school and feel safe. And just walking outside my building or even walking outside my front door before heading outside the building is very scary. Like, I can't go to school without feeling worried that I'm going to be taken at any moment in any second in my life.
How can anyone feel safe under these conditions? How are we supposed to just go on with our daily lives under these circumstances? How can society function when this is happening every single day? This is not sustainable. And you really get a sense of how much fear there is, how much fear is proliferating in these communities from this Walmart worker.
It's so sad to have to live like this in fear. So many people don't want to leave their houses. So many people don't want to grocery shop. They don't want to do nothing because they are so scared that they're going to step out of their door and not make it back. Like, Sundays are like grocery days for a lot of Latinos, Sundays are packed. Like, when I tell you guys, there's so many families on Sundays grocery shopping. And today there was none. I haven't seen not one family, you guys. I hate this so much.
That broke me. Because I have Latino family members who are saying the same thing to me. They're terrified. It doesn't matter that they're citizens. They no longer feel like their citizenship is going to protect them. They feel like they have to watch their backs because wherever they go, they're going to be racially profiled. If ICE isn't there, then somebody's going to call ICE on them because, that's the environment that Trump has cultivated. You shouldn't have to be afraid that at any moment when you're just doing an errand, that Trump's secret police can come and whisk you away and your family never sees you again. Like, that is not a healthy world to live in. And to be clear, marginalized groups were already afraid of the police, but there was at least some semblance of potential accountability in the event officers abuse their power. They wear name badges and have badge numbers, and if they arrest you, they're required to read you your Miranda rights. And to be clear, I'm not defending them because statistically speaking, cops are likely to be on the side of the ICE Gestapo and not you, but you at least have enough basic information about each officer to at least try to redress your grievances in the event they abuse you. But when it comes to ICE, all bets are off because everything that they do is done in the dark. If a masked thug kidnaps you or assaults you or rapes you, there's no recourse. What do? You don't know their names or their badge number. You have nothing to report. You don't have anyone to report to. You can't even describe what they look like because most of them wear masks. And if the anonymity wasn't bad enough, the regime is declaring that they're also above the law. I mean, don't take my word for it. Listen to what Stephen Miller says about these ICE agents.
To all ICE officers, you have federal immunity in the conduct of your duties. And anybody who lays a hand on you or tries to stop you or tries to obstruct you is committing a felony. You have immunity to perform your duties, and no one, no city official, no state official, no illegal alien, no leftist agitator or domestic insurrectionist can prevent you from fulfilling your legal obligations and duties.
In other words, they have carte blanche to fuck us up and even kill us if they want to, and there's nothing that any of us can do about it. We just have to sit back and take it. I mean, they've shot multiple people since Renee Good was executed, and as The Intercept points out, they keep invoking her murder to strike even more fear into the hearts of others. They want you to know that your life is in their hands and that they can kill you at any time. Meanwhile, the regime is gaslighting us by treating Jonathan Ross like the victim, by planting false stories in the media and claiming that he had internal bleeding, when we know damn well that that's not true because, as this person on Twitter put it, if there were even the slightest scratch on Jonathan Ross, we would have seen photos days ago. And that's precisely it. And if they're willing to lie about what we can all see on video, we shouldn't trust a single word that this regime says. But it's evident that when they say that ICE Nazis have immunity, they mean absolute immunity. They apparently have the regime's full permission to execute citizens in the streets and get away with it. And saying that they'll let them get away with it, like, that doesn't give you the full picture because they'll go out of their way to flip reality on its head. So the victim actually is the bad guy in their eyes and treated as such. Like, I still cannot get over the fact that the regime is trying to investigate Renee Good's widow. I don't know if much people know about this because there's so much other stuff going on, but I'm going to repeat that. They are trying to investigate Renee Good's widow after executing her wife. Now, I'm thankful that this is leading to resignations, as the New York Times reports, but still, the fact that this is what they want to do shows you how barbaric they are. Are public executions next? Are they going to start cutting off fingers to punish petty thieves? Like, I shouldn't give them any ideas because they might want to do that. But for them to politically target the widow of a murder victim feels like a new level of moral degeneracy, even for the United States of America. It's their country and you're just living in it. That is, until they decide to delete you, which they want you to know that they can do at any time. It's impossible to fathom how evil they are, and I simply don't think that the country can tolerate nonstop terrorism from a paramilitary occupier for 3 more years. It is agonizing. And it's why I think that more and more people are going to start talking about secession and even revolution, because people can only take so much until they snap. And it really feels like we are reaching a breaking point. It really feels like Trump is sowing the seeds of the country's destruction. And I'm not saying that he's going to succeed, but he definitely gets an A for effort because goddamn.